So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to week 9 of the Joy of Programming Introduction in Python. So, if there are any questions regarding last week's of lectures, feel free to ask once again. Otherwise, like this week, okay, so I had put up the QR code last 2 weeks asking if there are any suggestions on what to improve and things like that. And like a couple of people were of the felt that I was asking too difficult questions, which I completely understand. As an introduction level course, there are some of the questions which I should not have. I should have asked much later. So today's class will hopefully be much easier questions. So I hope that's very beneficial to all of you. And since it's already been 2 months of the course, I think it will be a very nice opportunity to revise the important concepts that have happened over the last 2 months. So essentially, this week's class will be solving stuff which we should have a firm grasp of by now. So of course, we have to start with numbers. So what do you think the output of this cell will be? So just to clarify, the what's the output function is just a print statement. It's just a fancy print statement for so that it looks cool, I guess. So what do you guys think will be the output for the first function? So Python can be used like an elaborate calculator. So this is just 7 plus 5 multiplied by 3 to the power 2. Yes, Nikita, that's right. So when you run this, we'll get this 52. So yeah, so what's the output? We'll also put question number X before the thing. So this is just so that to keep track. So similarly, we have what's that called? Comparative operators on numbers. So we can all of these should have very intuitive answers, and I guess all you guys will know what the answer is. So while you're writing the answer, note that there are other operations in Python. Like one thing which confuses people the first few times is normally we use the caret symbol for exponentiation. So like 3 to the power 3 is usually written like this. But in Python, the caret symbol is actually XOR, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so do I have an answer for this? The last three parts are convenience, are just things to make it easier to do ranges in Python. So when you run this, we get. I should have done something else. Okay, never mind. We get this. So obviously 3 is not less than 5. Sorry, obviously 3 is not greater than 5. So first one is false. Second one is also false because 2 is not greater than 4. 5 is in between 4 and 6. So that's true. Likewise, 6 is in between 7 and 5. So that's true. Operators in Python. Yeah, so the caret symbol is actually called bitwise OR, and it's not easy to explain if you do not know binary digits. If you want me to explain bitwise OR, I'll explain it like in the second half of the class. Okay, so similarly, we have booleans. Booleans are essentially the output of the comparisons. So true and false are the two Boolean values, and we likewise have Boolean operators like and, or, and not. So even these should be fairly obvious to all of you. You should have a firm grasp of this by now. True and false gives us false. False or false also gives us false. Not false gives us true. Another very important thing are strings. There are essentially three main ways you can represent strings. F strings are my favorite, but raw strings are also needed for its own things. So what do you think the output for these are? So for the first one, it's just star 15 times, and I guess that should have been pretty clear, right? In the second one, we have na 10 times, and which is followed by Batman. So we will have na 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 na, na Batman. So all of this makes sense, I hope. If any of you want more difficult questions, it's always the same thing. Like if you want, you can just solve the questions above me, and those are supposed to be much more difficult. If you have any queries regarding the questions above me, feel free to ask once again. In case anyone's confused why I'm solving questions like this now, is in the feedback I had gotten was that I was doing far too difficult questions, so I'm just toning down a bit. So yeah. Okay, so we'll solve this question number 11 and 12 and 13. So what do you think the output of these are? So the first one, we all know what variables do. So it just substitutes the stuff and does the things. In this case, essentially we have hello there, and it's added to /n. /n obviously represents a new line. I believe I've mentioned this before. And B is General Kenobi. So we'll have hello there, General Kenobi repeated twice. And this is just a math expression. We know C is equal to 9. So this will simplify to 89. Okay, so now we'll go to functions. So I must apologize because it's after I wrote everything, I realized I didn't have a section for if and for, but I think we have done a lot of questions about if and for, so that's there. So what do you think is the output for these? Yeah, it's quite trivial. I hope it is trivial, and you guys do know the answer, right? So for the first one, f1 evaluates to 9 because 2 to the power 3, that's 8. 8 plus 1 gives 9. The second question gives us, well, essentially the same thing. I just used variables instead. However, it's a trick question. In f2, we are not returning any value. Because we are not returning any value, there's no return here, right? Because there's no return here, the output of f2 is none. So we'll see it when you run the code. f3 actually does have an output. So in this case, we'll get 2 times 2, which is 4, we'll get 6. And that's what I said. There's no return for f2, and therefore the return is assumed to be none, because, well, there's no output, right? Okay, so moving on. Oh, yeah, already halfway there. Okay. So now we'll be working a little bit of lifts once again, because we really love our lifts in Python. So what do you think the outputs are here? Okay, so, well, the first statement will say is the length of A, well, the length of A, and, well, A is 135, len A is 13, will be 3, will be 3. I didn't notice this question. So what's the output of the first one? We'll just give 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just give 1, 2, 4, 2, and 3. And this might be slightly more different. So the output of this, the enumerate function essentially, well, enumerates the list. By enumerating the list, I mean if the list is 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, we know 1 is the 0th element, 3 is the index 1, 6 is the index 2, and so on. So when I do enumerate, it will list them together. So it will say 0, 1, and then it will say 1, 3, and so on. Essentially, like numbering the elements of the list. So take it here. Alright, done. So when we run this, we get, well, the first one was obvious. Second one is what I told you it will be. And similarly, this is what enumerate does. It just numbers the elements of the list. Now I am appending a value to the list. So the result of this is exactly how you'd expect. So when you run this, we get is all the values will just be updated to include the 4 at the end. Now we'll just do a little bit of sneaky questions regarding having variables outside and inside functions. So what do you think the output of this is? So as you go through the code, the first thing it goes inside the function f1, and there it will say what's the output, A. So that value of A was obviously 11. Then when it goes out, it says what's the output, and the input is again A, but this time it is this A and not this A. Remember, scopes are a thing in Python. Functions are useful because it separates you can use the same variables in multiple places and not get confused between them. So inside this block, the value of A is 11. Inside this block, which is outside this, the value of A is 23. Actually, just make this change everywhere. So what do you think will be the output here? Yes, it starts with 11. And because of the final print statement here, they will print 23 after that. Once again, this is because when you're saying a is equal to 11, even though there's a here, it says the a inside the function is 11. Things will only start getting weird when you start introducing lists to things. What's the output? Just in case, just so the people who have come new, what's the output is just a function which calls print essentially. So don't worry about that. So what's going to happen here? Here the input of f1 is the array of 23. So will anything happen if I do a is equal to 11 now? Yes, it's a trick question. Nothing will happen in this case because essentially what this is doing is it's assigning a new value to a. Because it's assigning a new value to a, it doesn't care that we have given this value of a into the function. So once again, the answer is 11 and 23. Except obviously the 23 is an array, so there's that. Similarly here, because we are assigning a new value, it will not change the outer value. Yeah. However, here, what do you think is going to happen? Unlike the previous times, here we are taking the input and changing the input. And especially because a is a list, which is some data type which can be modified, this will change the outer value a also. This is primarily for two reasons. Firstly, we are not setting the value of a inside the function. We are just taking this value of a and changing it. And because lists are a mutable type, that is, lists can be changed, the value of the output here will be 23, 11 and 23, 11. I hope this part made sense because this unfortunately usually comes back to bite you. It's very often that people make mistakes when working with functions like this. So this should be a fairly easy question.
So it will swap the values for A and B.
Yes, that's precisely it. So when you swap the values of a and b, it will print, instead of printing 10, 20, it will print 20, 10. Now let's look at this. We'll go to dictionary. We have had good experience with dictionaries, so I'm pretty sure you can answer this one as well. Just to clarify, this is a double equal to sign and not a single equal to. It's just that I like it looking like this more. So here I'm comparing if A is the same as this list. The answer is obviously not, because A here is a dictionary and this is a list. Even though the individual elements are the same, it doesn't mean that they are the same thing, right? So I guess that makes sense to you, right? Because this is a list and this is a dictionary. Obviously, they're different. Now, make uh, so even though all of these are true, even though A of 0 is B of 0, A of 1 is B of 1, A of 2 is B of 2, they are still different because, well, A is a dictionary and B is a set. B is a list. So, and because A is a dictionary, you can change the value of dictionaries like this. So now, yeah. And we all know, we have talked a bit about this, like strings, tuples, and lists and dictionaries are iterables. Iterables are things that can be that you can go use a for loop to go through in a nice manner. So here I'm taking text and using the function split on it. Split will take this text, and wherever there's a space, it will just break it there. Therefore, the output of split is a list of strings. So you can check it by when you run it, it just splits at every space. So, and perhaps most importantly in Python, we have modules. So this is just a quick demonstration of the NumPy module where I'm defining x as, okay, so if any of you have learned MATLAB, many of the syntaxes are almost MATLAB like, because MATLAB's just been around for so long. So linspace means a linearly spaced vector. So when this means that if I print x, it will have lots of values between 0 and 10. Why? Here I'm doing np.sign. That will just take x and apply the sign function to it. And NumPy random allows me to take random values. So here I'm taking random values from normally distributed values. So when I run this, I'll get almost a sine curve, but because of the random values, it will be a little jagged. I can make it more jagged by increasing the variance, because that's what a normal thing here does. I can make it less jagged by reducing the variance. Very nice. And once again, this is one of the reasons I like VS Code over Spider and Jupyter Notebook, because this is just so much nicer in my opinion. So that's like a very quick overview into what all we have done in Python over the last 2 months. Yeah, there are additional stuff that we have done. We have done semantics, we have done word sentiment analysis and reading, what I think called reading file manipulation. In fact, last week you worked with graphs. But in the end, it's these fundamentals that you have to know perfectly to in order to properly write many Python codes. So, is there any questions about the last week's lectures and things like that? I guess there isn't. Okay. So I think we can go over one of the second extra question I've written here, like writing your own version of the enumerate function. So let's see how the enumerate function in Python first looks like. If I do enumerate of 1 comma 5 comma 10, it essentially gives us it doesn't, okay, Python tries to optimize things by only evaluating numbers when it has to evaluate numbers. So inside a for loop, it will do stuff. For I in enumerate print I. In this case, it will properly list it out. But if I just write enumerate of 158, it won't do anything. This is so that I can do things like k is equal to enumerate of and then I can do for I in k. It's essentially the same thing because I'm not solving for the enumerate here itself. I can just simplify it here, but for convenience I will right now just write a list around it. Okay, so this is what the enumerate function does. If I give it any input, it will, well, number the inputs correctly. So if I give it a range of 1 to 6 of step 2, it will range of 1 6 2, it gives us 1 3 and 5. If you want to check again, list of remember this gives us 1 3 5. Enumerate just numbers it. So how will you write a function my enumerate? Okay, do you have any idea? Okay, so naturally the input of my enumerate is another list, so we'll just call that q here, and I want to, for every element in q, I want to pair it with a number. So I'll do for I in q, and we'll store the return value in ret. But for I in q is not enough, right? We need to keep track of the variable. So here we'll do for L in q, I is equal to 0, ret dot append I comma L, and after that I'll increment I is equal to I plus 1. So this seems like a decent approximation for the enumerate function, right? The thing is, the small difference between this and the actual enumerate is that the actual enumerate does not calculate. I told you earlier, if I just do enumerate, it does not calculate the stuff. It just gives me something which is supposed to be calculated later. It's slightly different because, right, if I control C, print, the output are different. My enumerate is giving me a list, while the other enumerate is giving me something which is not yet calculated. So, contrary to your expectations, we are actually going to learn something new today. So, in addition to the return keyword, Python also gives you the yield keyword. So let's look at that. So essentially, def, we'll just call this function get number. So I is equal to 0, and I just yield I. Something's wrong with the notation. Give me a second. Oh yeah. Okay. So what the yield keyword does is it lets you. Okay, I'll just make that function. Now I'll just call get number. So what the yield keyword does is it gives us something that has a next value. So every time I run the code, I get the next value. So if I run this now, I get 1. If I run this again, I get 2. Why does this happen? Because every time I go through this, it yields the present value of I. Then when I do the next thing, it goes, looks at the function again and goes, okay, what's the next value of I must give? The next value of I, okay, I will just do the calculations and find the next value of I. Did that make sense? Essentially, the yield keyword is something especially used to not calculate values immediately, but to generate the values on demand. Only when I ask for the next value, it gives me the next value. Because of that, this is useful especially for loops and iterators. So I can do for I in get number, print I, if I is greater than 10, break. So what do you think this will do? Get number is going to just keep pumping out numbers, getting numbers, and if the value of I is greater than 10, it will stop. And that's Yeah, obviously. Yeah. It will stop once the value of I is greater than 10. Did this make sense? Well, I sure hope it did. Now, so can you think of a way to make my enumerate better? Now it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I just remove the ret. I don't need ret anymore. And I just yield I comma L. Yeah. So once again, if I do my enumerate now, it does this. But if I do it here now, well, it's almost the same thing. I'll just put the list around it. It does the same. I forgot about. Yeah, so it does the same thing. The reason, so essentially it's specifically called a generator, but you don't have to think too much about it. It's essentially just like an iterator. I hope that part made sense. So one advantage of using generators is that you don't need to store all the values to like use it. For example, if I'm say I want to go through all the I want to go through as many values of the Fibonacci sequence as I want. So if I'm making a list of the Fibonacci elements 1 comma 1 0 comma 1 comma 2 2 comma 3 comma 5 comma 8 comma 30. So if I'm doing things like this, then I need to store every value of the Fibonacci sequence. So if I want 200 values, I need to store 200 values, which is like a lot of numbers, right? So instead of that, if you use the yield keyword, you can just request for the what's that thing called? Request for the Fibonacci number, and it'll just do that much. So could you try writing a generator for the Fibonacci sequence? I hope that section kind of made sense. Did this make sense? So that's the way you, the the important thing is, this does not store any value of the Fibonacci sequence. It just generates them as you need it. So that's like one advantage of knowing this. I hope this question made sense. So essentially today's class, in addition to the small revision we have done so far, we'll just be learning some more quirks of functions. So another really interesting thing is, say I want a function that, or we look at the other question I've written above, like write a function that adds all the arguments given to it. So normally you write def function, and we give it like a, b, c, d, e. That this allows us to take 5 values, and then when I do return a plus b plus c plus d plus e, yeah, this works. But the issue with this one is, add them all. For this function, I strictly need 5 arguments. I need to give the function 5 values for it to run. If I give it less than 5 values, it will the program will be like, no, you're stupid, don't do this. Add them all, 1, 2. It doesn't like it. It wants me to put more values. Of course, I can give default values. And now it works. But this only works for 5 values. Now, if I'm giving 7 values, I will have to like use more variables, I guess. But that's like very inconvenient, isn't it? Yeah, Ali, I'll answer that question after I talk about this, okay? So for this, we use something called, well, it's called arguments. So essentially, if you want a list of all your arguments in the function call, you just put a star and put a variable name. So let's say a. Okay. So let's see what this looks like. Print a. Now a just has all the arguments. So now it's super easy, right? All you have, if you want to add them all, we can just do some a. I hope this part made sense. If you put 1 star in front of the variable, it will capture every argument in the thing. There is another type of thing which always comes with this, and that is putting 2 stars in front of it, and we call this keyword arguments. So if I write, I'll just remove this, printing a, and I give a is equal to 2. So essentially there are 2 kinds of arguments here. There are unnamed arguments and a named argument. You probably recognize this in the print function. If you notice, the value in the print function is star values. That's because whenever you don't give a specific name to the input, it'll go to the values. Everything else is a keyword argument. It has a name. There's sep, there's end, and there's a couple of other stuff, but we only care about sep and end usually. Yeah. So that is the idea behind arguments and keyword arguments. So if you look at this, keyword arguments are a dictionary, and normal arguments are a tuple. I hope that part made sense. So like this allows you to do like completely wacky stuff. So yeah, in fact, okay, nothing. So okay, I'll answer Ali's question now. Let's take it. Or is equal to this, new is equal to this, for w in the word, I is equal to odd word. Honestly, this function is doing something in a very roundabout manner. What's it doing? Lovely. Huh, what's going on? Okay. So when you go to the next value, okay, the value of I, what's the value of W? W is F, odd of W is 107. 107 plus 26, that will be if I remember correctly, CHR does not do this. Yeah, this function does. Yeah, no, this function does not do anything what you want it to do, because CHR does the opposite of odd. So I'll just clear this. So what odd does is it gives us the ASCII value of the character. So if I have B, it will give 98 and so on. The thing is, the first, okay, so it's not the first. A has the ASCII value of 65 and numbers have the ASCII value from 48. Is 0 the first one? Yeah, numbers have the ASCII value of 48. So if I do CHR of odd, I will get back 0. If I do a, because CHR and odd are essentially opposite functions. Now, all letters in Facebook are, well, it's all in lowercase. So let's just rearrange this. So this is I plus 26 minus 97. I can write that as I minus 97 plus 26. Now, I minus 97 is just the index of the letter. So, if I do odd A is 97. So, if I subtract 97 from this, I'll just get 0. Odd of E is the fifth letter. So, this will give me 4 and so on. So, this is just finding the order of the letter, okay, the index of the letter, and then you're adding 26. But that doesn't matter because you're taking a mod 26 after that. So this becomes, after this it becomes 4. When you add 26, it becomes 30. And when you do the mod 26, it will cancel out. You'll get back 4. This is because in maths, if it's maths, a plus m mod m is equal to a mod m. Like if I take this is because mod gives you the remainder. So the remainder of a plus m mod m will obviously be the same as the remainder of a mod m, because if you're adding m, that goes in the quotient and not the remainder. So in short, this function is useless because right now it's getting the order of the variables, and I'll just print. So for I in range 30, print chr of I. All of these are just weird letters. So open it. Like you normally can't see most of these letters. If I make this 100, so most of these are things you can't view, but eventually you'll come across characters which are that we know we have values of. So like this will be the 48th and so on. I'm not sure the point of this code. Ali, I hope it clarified something, because like I am a big fan of writing code for things which make sense. This doesn't really make that much sense.
Okay. Then, sir, what will be the output in new?
So the output of new will have all these letters, but shifted between 0 and 26, which is like a bunch of characters which we can't read. Like, I'll just show you. So ASCII characters. So the values from 0 to 48 are all of these weird things. There's the null character, there's the SOH, start of text, end of text, and all of these are just characters that are useful for the computer, but not so useful for humans to read. Like only when you reach 32, you get characters that are useful for us. 32 is space, 33 is exclamation mark, and so on. So the first 26, which which is going to be the output of j, is not useful for us. It's a bunch of characters we don't know. If you write str instead of chr, then you'll convert that to the number itself, and that is more reasonable. So yeah, f is the sixth letter, so that's as index 5. A has the first letter. A is the first letter, so it's index 0. C second, third letter, and so on. So if you had used str instead of chr, it kind of makes more sense. What we are doing here is finding which element the letter is. So O has index 14, A has index 0, and so on. So new is just, it's like for every letter in W, we are finding the order of the letter, the index of the letter, and then adding it to new. Another, a much easier way to do this is new2 is equal to so yeah, you get the same thing. Essentially, this is just making a string whose letters are the number form of the letter. So yeah. So we are just 1 hour in. So okay, we'll do another question. So to be honest, the first question I've written above is surprisingly difficult. So I'm not going to solve that in class. I'm done solving difficult questions in class. Okay. But if you have any difficult question that you want me to solve, I can do it. But it cannot be Facebook. Wait, which week 8 answer? Give me a second. No, you will. Ali, you forgot the plus 97 at the end. There's a plus 97 here. There's a plus 97 at the end. This plus 97 will change everything because because you're adding plus 97 there, that means you're shifting it back to the normal set of values. What I told you earlier was, if without this plus 97, it's all the values are in this range of the ASCII table. The from substitute to bell, what even is bell, and backspace and things like that, which cannot be properly seen. But if you're adding 97 after that, it takes us to this region. So it takes us from 97 to 122, which will give us the corresponding values from A to Z. So what will happen is we'll get back Facebook. This plus 97 is like very vital for this question. This question is essentially just checking your understanding about maths actually. If you change the number here, then what will happen is, instead of adding plus 1 every time, you're going to be cycling through stuff. So if I make this 25 instead, what will happen is, okay, to better see it, it's better to write functions, I guess. Def get letter index. So here they have I is equal to odd of S. Okay. So this function will give you the index of the letter S. Index means like from 0 which letter it is. We can replace I minus 97 with get letter index. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Now I'm adding 26 to it and then taking a modulus sign. So that will not change anything. It'll give us back this. And then when I add def get number get letter from index n. So with the number, we can get the letter, with the index, we can get the letter back by returning CHR of n plus 97. 97 because A has index 97 and sorry, A has ASCII value 97 and index 0. So we must shift it by 97 so that it's aligned with the ASCII values, and then we convert it to a CHR. So instead of this, we have and it'll give us back the same thing. I hope this part made sense. So what's happening here is we are getting the index of a letter, and then this part is usually for cycling values. So if I have A, B, C, D, E, if I change this value of 26 appropriately, I can make it B, C, D, E, F or C, D, E, F, G, H. Yeah. So if I make this, if I make word A, B, C, D, E, yeah, because if I add 3 here, I'm shifting it by 3. So A, B, C, D, E. I shifted it by 4. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, it's correct. It's correct. Yeah. So like if I subtract 1, it'll go back. This is what they mean by cycling. Like A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z forms a cycle, forms a circle, and then you're just shifting values from one end of the circle to the other. So that is what this part of the function does. Okay. So now we'll go back and solve a couple of questions we have done last week and all. Wait, which question was that? Oh yeah, these questions. I only realized that recursion is a last week's topic of the course, like day before yesterday. So I'm sorry for talking about recursion a lot for the last few days because it's a cool topic, but I understand that you have not studied it before. We are not going back to this. Is there any other question you guys have? So if there aren't any questions, I think it will be a good idea to like solve a couple of questions based on what's that thing called? The based on keyword arguments and normal arguments. Where did it go? Yeah, here. So one very easy question. Could you make a function that tells you all the keys inside the keyword arguments? So remember, the keyword argument will be defined like this. So if I want to find all the keys of the keyword argument, all I have to do is get keys of kw for k for key in kw. So this is what it does. It's exactly. Can you minimize the? Oh sure. So this is what this function does. Like keyword arguments are those which are named. So here all the A is named, B is named, and things like that. The other kind of arguments are the ones that are not named, like 1, 3, 4, 6. These won't. When you do yeah. Instead, so these will be part of Q, and these will be part of the keyword arguments. I have written a bit of stuff here. The easier way to do this is to just kw dot keys. Essentially, if instead of making the keys yourself. As I said before, every function, every object in Python usually has a lot of associated functions which are very convenient to use with. Okay, so how about writing a small function to, oh, that's too complicated. Okay, is there any questions you guys want me to solve? Oh, by the way, so last week's, no, I one of the week's programming assignments is one of the things I had solved in class. So I've accidentally given you a solution. So that's good for you guys, I guess. Anyways, so what's on the question? I ran out of questions once again. Okay, one nice question would be, okay, we'll do the opposite of the that question. So say we have two dictionaries, D1 and D2. Then the values of keys and print the key value pairs of D1 and D2 which are not present in the other. I hope this question made sense. So if you have D1 is equal to 1, 3, 4, 6, 2, 5, and D2 is 1, 2, 3, 6, and 3, 7, and so for this, if I run the function, we'll call this dictionary difference. Def dictionary difference D1, D2, pass. So if I run dictionary difference, I will get I should get, because 1 is common to both, that should not be printed, but all the other values can be printed, should be printed. 4, 6, 2, 5, 3, 7, and 8, 2. So can you write a function which does this? Okay, so easiest way to do this is, well, to pass through the key value pairs. So we'll do for key in D1. If this key is in D2, we shouldn't print it. Key in D2, continue. Else print key comma D1 of value, D1 of key. And likewise, we must do the same for D2. So did this, I guess this made sense. The next question I have will be, so given an sorry, is there any specific topics you want me to cover? I was not expecting the all the questions to just get over so quickly. Okay, yeah, I forgot about, I meant to include this also. So remember, consider this. A is equal to 23. Def f1 is earlier I had said that because of the way scopes work, if I do this, it does not change the value. Because of the way the scopes work, doing this won't change the outer value. But what if you want to change the outer value? What will we do then? One one way you can do it is like a mine. The easiest way to do this is you tell Python that this A is the global A. So now when I change the this, what this says is, if the variable A here is going to be the global value of A, that is the thing which is outside the scope. So now when I change A is equal to 11, it changes the actual value of A and not just the inner value of A here. In fact, the thing above, I had told you I had written a function for what's the output. That's what I've done here. I've set question is equal to 0, and then I'm inside the function I'm using global question. That is, I'll always be referring to this question. As I go through the questions, I'll keep incrementing it by 1. So what this allows you to do is, when I run all the file, it will automatically keep track of the question number. And at the same time, because it's like a normal print statement, everything here is just a normal print statement. So it makes sure I don't make any mistakes. Actually, It works. So I guess not. There's not many questions. So one cool. Okay, so programming is essentially for you guys to automate tasks. There will be certain things that you'd want to do, but it's difficult to get going every time, right? So one thing we can try to do is to use Selenium to open the Swime portal. I have to, should I log out? Yeah, doesn't matter. So if you remember the Selenium stuff about Selenium, we start with so running the code here has opened this. So if I want to now open random sites, I'll use this. So if I run this now, it will open python.org. But we wanted to open the Swime portal site. And I believe the thing for that will be this. Let's see. Okay, so essentially, when it opens things like this, it is essentially kind of like a, because it's an automated thing, you can see the robot here. Because this is an automated thing, it knows that it doesn't try to keep the cookies in your system. It like, so in fact, if I open Google and things like that, all the things here are all the sites that we have just opened. In fact, my normal search history won't be here. These are just the ordinary search history every time. See, there is no search history here. So that means I would have to log in. The issue is, if I have to log in to the Swime portal, I have to input my password, and I can't have you guys see that, right? But we can make it do the stuff automatically on its own. So we'll do this. It will open. We wanted to click this, so we inspect. We get the name of this. The name of the button is Google Exchange. So by ID, after it has reached this, after it has found that element, we want to click it. So select option. Oh, so once again, you should always read documentation. So instead of using the what I just used, we should use select instead. So we'll import that. So when you lovely. So unfortunately, you will always have to like read a lot of documentation to make sense of things. So one way is to find the submit button and click it. So all you have to do is to dot click. I should have read it better. So now we can select this. The input ID is identifier ID. Control C. This time we have to write text into it. So what it's saying is you must do element dot send key some text. Element dot send. And that's what it does. So you can see how this can be used to automate the process. The one small issue is because we are signing in with Google, Google will probably not allow you to sign in using using a code. It'll probably ask you to like do captcha and things like that, and we don't want to do that. So we should be able to do. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm not sure how to log into Google using, but at the same time, it's not safe to do it. It's not safe. safe to do it in front of you guys. Yeah. Is there any other question you want me to solve? Because I'm actually out of questions right now. So essentially, the main thing here is knowledge of a little bit. If you know a little bit of HTML, you will be able to quite easily do whatever you want with Selenium. Like last week, a few weeks back, we used Selenium to open Wikipedia articles. I do not know what else you want to do. Like if you're, because of my system, I'm not able to install NLTK on my system. Which so otherwise I would have shown you sentiment analysis using Wikipedia and things like that. So I guess I will like wind down the class. If you want or any questions answered, feel free to ask. I will stay back till 8. You guys can leave. So I'll explain the Facebook code again. So where did it go? Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. So the original Facebook code is slightly different from this, but I have rearranged it slightly to make it more intuitive for us. The important thing, if you look at the code in the Facebook code, there is this incredibly long line which is not intuitive at all the first time you see it. So I've tried to write it in a way which is more intuitive. The first thing I did is I changed the order. Instead of doing I plus 26 minus 97, I did I minus 97 plus 26. Why did I do that? This is because I is the index, the ASCII value of the letter. Because I is the ASCII value of the letter, we have I minus 97 to give you the index of the letter. So A has the ASCII value 97. So odd of A will give me 97, and 97 minus 97 is 0, which means which makes sense. The index of A is 0. Index of B will be 1. Index of C will be 2, and so on. So the first thing I did is I made a function that when I get a letter, I identify the index. And that's essentially what the first part does. Odd of the value minus 97. That will give, that is what this part is doing. odd of W minus 97. I'm ignoring the plus 26 because I'll talk about it in the end. What the last part of the code is doing is I'm taking the index. J is still an index, by the way. So I'm taking the index, I'm adding 97 to it, and then I'm finding which character it is. So that is the exact opposite of this. So that's what I've written here. So the first one, given the letter, gives me a character. The first one, given the letter, gives me the index of the letter. The second one, given the index of the letter, I get the character. So yeah, so that's what this part is doing. The char j plus I'm essentially rearranging this code once again. So here I'm, instead of having a 97 here, I'm having a 97 in this char j plus 97. Okay, so once you do that, the rest of the code becomes more obvious, right? So what you're having here is I'm finding the letter, and then I'm shifting the letter around using this -1 or plus 26 or any number. This remainder of 26, make sure the index is between 0 and 26, because there are only 26 letters. So once I get the new index, I will do this stuff. So you can agree that this changes nothing. I start with A B C D E, I get the letter, and then I get the index, and then I get the letter back. So nothing changes. If I remove this thing and I add 1, in general, it won't make any difference. However, if the letter has the letter Z, if the word has the letter Z, now if I add Z, if I add 10 here, it will take me beyond 26. It will take me to 36. And that's a letter we don't know. So I need to cycle it back to the beginning. And that is why I need the percentage 26. So if I have Z, apparently if I add 10, if I add 1, it makes it more obvious. Yeah, I have A, B, C, D. So that will be added by, you add 1 to it, it becomes B, C, D, E. Z, when you add 1, takes back to 1, takes us back to A. So we get the A at the end. So that is the idea behind this code. So in the exam, they had added 26 here. That just goes a complete cycle. So there's no difference. I have said this really fast. I get it. I understand. So if I can explain this slower if you want me to. Ali, what do you mean about connection to Python? I'm sorry, like both questions came at the same time, so I didn't know. I went through the Facebook thing very quickly. Ali, what's your question exactly? Your Python IDE is uh okay. I'm assuming you're not using a Jupyter notebook. I mean, files like this. Okay, if you're using files like the IPYNB, then can you like write some code and do shift enter? And what happens when if you do shift enter? Okay. Ali, so is it working? Oh, it's working now? Okay. Could you like share your screen? Ali, are you going to share your screen? I don't. Oh, You can share your screen now. Okay, so first you exit that thing in the bottom. You don't need that. Press the play on the top. Okay. Can you go to the left side with lots of squares? Yeah. Can you search for Jupiter? Yeah, so just install the 4 Jupyter stuff. You just click the install button. The yeah. And after that, search for Python. Okay, so that's there. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so open your sample.py again. At the what? At the bottom part, can you click that thing? Yeah, can you click the no, the one next to it, the 3.11.1. Click it. That's just click that properly again. Give me a second. Can you click that run command again? It should work. Oh, wait, can you click the small arrow next to the thing? Small the yeah. Click run Python file, I guess. Why is it doing like this? It's not running the file, it's just running Python. Doesn't make any sense. Could you click that run Python file and dedicated terminal again? Huh? It works. Yeah, there you go. Try run it again. Click the. Yeah, it's working. There you go. Another day, another problem solved. No issues. You just have to open a file called IPYNB. So if you just open IPYNB, if you open a file with like, yeah, if you open my GitHub repository and just get it. Where did it go? So you will have access to this in the WhatsApp place in the Swime portal. So click code and then you can either download as a zip, or if you know Git, you can use the Git commands to download this. After you download as a zip, you can open this in VS Code and see the code. You should be able to see things like this. Let me check. So I'm Samir. I'm able to join. Did you do something and get blocked? Yeah, I used the same link you did. I was able to join just freely. So yes. See, I, though I must confess, I can't hear him. Okay, so for the YouTube audience, that's it for today. See you next week.